Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Afghan Beyond Conflict. This series will be running throughout the month of February on Wednesdays and for Saturdays at 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. To receive notifications and updates regarding the series, please follow our social media platforms. And if you miss any of our episodes, please check them out on our YouTube channel. Today, we will be in conversation with Massoud Hossaini. Massoud is a Kabul native, former political activist and photojournalist who got his start shooting images of Afghan refugees in Iran. After the September 11 attacks, he returned to Afghanistan to join AINA, a French cultural organization studied with photographer Manoucher Degati. His gut wrenching photo of a screaming girl in the aftermath of a suicide bombing that killed more than 70 people won him the 2012 Pulitzer Prize. He has covered the war on terrorism since 2007. Massoud, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this great conversation.
Now, as customary with this series, Massoud, the first question that I would like to ask you is, what does it mean to you to be an Afghan?
Well, actually, this is really, complicated kind of question for me. Let me say what happened to me in my life and where I grew up. Well, I was born in Kabul, 1981, but I opened my eyes in Iran. And whatever I listened and I saw in the first, years of my life was in another country. Well, I grew up in Iran, and there was two kind of refugees in Iran. One that they had a blue ID from UN, and they were kind of realized and count as a official refugees, and then unofficial or illegal refugees. So illegal refugees didn't have any right in Iran, but I had the right to study in the Iranian school and universities, and I could join with the Iranian for anything, for whatever it was, existed in Iran. And because in Iranian public, Afghan people are mostly famous in Hazara face, in the Asian face. Hazara is one ethnicity of all ethnicities of Afghanistan. So, and because Hazaras are Shia in religion, they mostly went to Iran, but their, face is kind of their identity in Iran as an Afghan.
Right.
So, but I wasn't like that. I didn't have that, Asian face. And then Iranian always thought that I am Iranian. So I grew up there exactly like one Iranian person. And I could join everything that they had, the religious, guards, revolution guards, actually, any kind of cultural gathering, any kind of cultural society, I could go in without any problem. And I kind of melted on the Iranian society. And I never thought that how Afghans are or what is Afghan, in general. When I finished my high school, I kind of take my camera. I started photography when I was 17, and I worked for it in a tailor shop to buy it. So it was so important for me to do a great job with it. When I finished my high school, uh, my father encouraged me to go to a charity organization and try to do something nice, because I need to do something bigger and nicer. And I went Afghan charity organization, and for the first time, they took me to refugees like camp, let's say, which was away from my own house, only 1 hour drive. And it was disaster, it was horrible. It was really, really a bad condition of the life. And the person who took me there, he was also a person from Afghanistan. And he told me that, see, this is your people, this is Afghans. And we have to work our people, our countrymen. And I couldn't believe it. You know, I thought that the Iranian society doesn't know about these people. And I was so surprised and I was so sad. And it became a shock for me. So that's why the reason that I start taking pictures from their life and trying to show it to the hosting community of Iran and telling them that, listen, do you know that these people are living here and they do not have any rights? They do not have anything. They do not have water. They do not have power, no home, no roads, nothing. And they're just living in the tents. And that was the first, moment or time that I kind of like was confused about my identity. Till that time, I thought that I am an Iranian, but to be honest, because I never seen Afghanistan and I grew up with Iranian, I thought that I will stay there. I will get the Iranian ID, and that problem will be solved. But after that, I saw those illegal refugees in close to my place. I was confused that, do I want this identity or not? Because if they know that these people are living here and they don't do anything, so I don't want to be like, I don't want to be famed by that identity. So that's why that it was really difficult for me. And when after the 11th September, September 11th, sorry, when I came back to Afghanistan, first I saw for sure Herat city. And where I was living was the sister of, Mashhad inside
Right.
Iranian and close to and border. So they were a bit close in the culture. And but I thought that I went back 100 years actually back. When I entered to Herat, the life and the situation was 100 years back. And everybody were, too nice with me, but they thought that I'm Iranian. And I couldn't try to, convince them that I am from Afghanistan. So I followed my journey and I reached Kabul. And I saw and I felt Kabul for the first time, a war zone. And it really much scared me because I didn't know anything about it, about my born place, you know? And well, wherever I go, sorry, wherever I went, and whoever I contacted, they all thought that I'm Iranian and they didn't trust me. And that was another confusion and another problem for me to convince everybody around myself that I'm Afghan. And it was too simple for them to ask me that, okay, if you're Afghan, talk with like us, eat like us, wear the clothes like us. And I couldn't do all of them because I wasn't that person that they wanted. And well, after all the years that I worked and covered war in Afghanistan, and I tried to be more close to Afghan people, it was another opportunity to go to other countries, to the Western countries, and see how other people think about us and how other people are. It was a big question mark for me that how people in the West are living, how they are, because whatever I saw, it was inside the movies and it was inside the a lot of TV shows, and they were completely different people. But when I went there, I saw that it's completely simple. They are completely like me, but only some of other part of their other culture is different. They're not coming from other planet. And it was too easy to be friend with them, like everywhere else, like Iran, like Afghanistan, like Pakistan, like India, like everywhere. And well, I traveled to 35 countries, and everywhere, people, the local people, refugees, whoever were, I mean, meeting me and I visit them, they were telling me that stay here, you could live here. And then I find out that, all right, I'm not belongs to one place. I cannot say that my identity is only Afghan identity. I cannot say that. I can be with everybody, with all, I mean, identities in the world, around the world is completely fine with me. And I can be everywhere that I want. And I can live peacefully and friendly with all people around the world. So that's kind of like um, the reason that I cannot say that I can say that I'm only Afghan uh, right now.
That's a very powerful story. You mentioned something about Hazaras and, the fact that they usually migrate to Iran because of their religious beliefs. Could you expand on that point a bit? I mean, the refugees, of course, within the camps are treated atrociously, like you mentioned, but what are how is the maneuvering of Hazaras conventionally within Iranian society outside of the refugee camps?
Well, uh, unfortunately, Iranian society kind of had a bit racist, I mean, behave with the Hazaras in Iran, which comes from Iranian revolutionary education, to be honest. Well, Iranian revolutionary uh, system try to, I mean, teach the Iranian that they are the best people in the world, and the other people and other Muslims in the world are lower than them. And this, I mean, mentality was the main problem that every Iranian thought that the Hazaras are like those who are, I mean, Asian faces. They are Afghans, and they are lower in their civilization, in their behave, in their knowledge, in their culture, and that's why that they were looking them from up to, I mean, down. That was the reaction of Iranian, mostly Iranian people. But as I told you, because I was not from that ethnicity and my face was different, so they never thought that I'm Afghan. And whenever I had to introduce myself and telling them that I am from Afghanistan and I'm a refugee, well, they were really shocked. They couldn't believe it. They were telling me, "No, you're not from Afghanistan. You're not Afghan." I had to just tell them, okay, this is my blue ID, and see, I'm from Afghanistan. And so that was the main actually behave and reaction of Iranian people about Hazaras.
That's unfortunate to hear, this isn't the only experience that I've heard of myself as well. Whenever I do speak to people that have come from Afghanistan to Iran and then to London, I usually hear a similar story from that as well. That
Mhm.
they have, and their face usually gives away the fact that they are Afghans, and they've sort of become the poster child of an Afghan refugee and what they're meant to look like.
Mm.
and therefore are treated accordingly, which is, it's sad to hear. You know, on as but more towards your work now, your photography is powerful to say the least. I mean, the one image that goes around the internet the most is the one that you won the Pulitzer for, in 2012. It's one thing that I've always wondered whenever I see photography like that is, what must the photographer have been thinking when that shot was taken? I mean, you see the catastrophe and the devastation that you're surrounded by. Could you comment on that?
Well, yes, actually, if I want to talk about that story, it would take a lot of time. But let's let me start in this way that when I was in Iran, so I never seen any violence in the street or any bombing or anything. When I was a child, the war was the other side of the country, the war between Iran and Iraq, and I never seen anything from war. What I just saw about the war and violence was in the TVs and whatever I was listening to the radio, especially BBC, and the rest. I grew up like a normal person, normal Iranian, playing ping pong, football, going to swimming pool, and running, going to the nature. That's it. And when I came back to Afghanistan, I was 19, and I start, working and trying to explore first myself about Afghanistan. How, just to um, get more knowledge, more information that what is Afghanistan, where is it, and why is war here. So that's why that when I joined INA and start photography, so that kind of like convinced me because I had the photography with myself for the means that myself I know Afghanistan, and the same time I could have that photo with myself and record it and could see it many times and think about it and then go and show it to others and talk about it. Well, when I start my professional assignments in 2004, and for Sunday Times magazine in London, that was my first one. I really loved it because I learned a lot of things in Afghanistan. Well, after that, I decide to cover, everything in Afghanistan, especially war, to understand first myself what is war and why is going on in Afghanistan. So for everything that I did till now, myself was in the center to know what is Afghanistan and why we are, kind of involving with all this problem. And well, I start going to the, embedding with the American and other foreign troops in Afghanistan, recording their, operations, and where it was really, really interesting for me to see the most powerful army in the world, the most modern army in terms of technology in the world, was going to the villages. That those villages, some of them, they even didn't see vehicles for the first, in their life. They didn't have power, they didn't have water, they didn't have road, nothing actually. That was really, interesting for me to see, and that's why that I was thirsty all the time to go and record and look everything that I face and take that picture for myself. Well, in all of this time, Well, I also covering like religious ceremonies, which was kind of connected to myself, because I am a Shia, and I am from a really religious family, and I grew up with those, ceremonies. But those ceremonies in Afghanistan was different a bit, you know. Like in Iran, we didn't uh, have permission to go out to do those, ceremonies. But here in Afghanistan, we had this permission. I mean, we had more freedom of religion and freedom of expression, so we could go out in the cities, in the streets, and do whatever the religions want us to do, And for me, now I was looking from like a bit other side, I was recording it. I had my camera, and I could show that ceremony to the world. However, I could, it was, depends on me that I show the realities that I wanted to say, because whatever was about media and journalists in Iran, what was that the journalists who were working for foreigners, they lie, and they say whatever the foreigners want. But now it was me working for Agence France Presse, and it was that ceremony that I was so familiar with it, and I was, free to show whatever I want, and on whatever I see, and that's why that I was covering that ceremony for years, and I never believed that anything will happen. In 2011, 6th of December, well, I went to cover that Muharram or Ashura day, the 10th of Muharram, as always, as a normal job. That I was doing it for a year, for some years. And when I was recording the pictures, video, sound, and everything, so I kind of saw a really different color, which for the first time I saw that a girl, wear that color and try to perform some part of the religious, which is about the Muslim children, like 1,400 years ago, and those children were being killed on that time by the bad guys. So that was the performance, and it was
It
interesting
was
for me that,
reenacting Karbala, yes? The
yes,
right, okay.
exactly. Well, we don't go to those details actually, but those children were the children of messenger of Imam Hussain to Karbala. But that messenger was being killed, and then these children were beheaded too. They were boys, but what I saw, it was a girl that tried to perform that. It was really interesting for me. I saw her; she was too shy, and she was attached to her mother, and because there was another group of like mourners that they were singing in Pashto language. I said, okay, first I go and record the video and the voice of these people, and then I'll be back. I'll come back, and then I'll start taking some pictures from this girl. Well, I went to those group of new people. They were singing in Pashto language, and I start recording my video. And after like probably 11 seconds after that, I pushed the button, the explosion happened. So I kind of throw out to the street, and well, I kind of lost my conscious for sometimes, for some seconds. I sat down in my place on the street and tried to kind of analyze what's happening. And I saw that people are running from smoke. There is a smoke there, and people are running away. So I stood up, like I was really shaken, and but I was there as a journalist, as a photojournalist, and I kind of like felt that I should know what's going on. I have to know. My guess was that a gas balloon is exploded, or probably something happened to a car or whatever. I never thought that it's a suicide attack. So I ran to the smoke, exactly the opposite way of people. And I kind of, when I went to the heart of the smoke, I stood up there and like wait, because I didn't see much. And then when the smoke disappeared, I find myself in the center of a circle, that circle was completely dead bodies and destroyed bodies of people. And after like several days, that I kind of got all my conscious back, and I saw again to the photos, I was standing exactly in the point that the suicide attacker exploded himself there. And I will start taking picture from there, you know? So somebody comes and explode himself and kills probably 100, more than 150. And then I go the same place and I start taking picture of that, you know? And well, I took picture from around myself, and then I saw that there is a color which is now in my eyes, but I didn't remember that what is it, because it was too big shock, So I tried to make myself closer to that color, and I started taking those pictures. I couldn't hear what she was telling me, because I couldn't hear anything actually. But I was just taking picture, and I could see her through my lens, that she's trying to ask help from anybody around herself, but nobody could do anything. And well, that was the kind of situation that I had on that day. Well, after that, I find out that I am in the kind of in the center of a suicide attack. Well, according to the training that I had for the war journalism and war photography, I need to, and I should run back and get a position and try and wait for police to avoid for the second explosion, which might kill me too. But well, I didn't do that actually, because I thought that this is what I have as a responsibility now. I have to show it, whatever happens. And I said, all right, I'm taking these pictures, whatever happens. If another explosion happens, they might find my camera or my chip. So they will have the pictures. Then I start and continue photography till the end of it. When I send the pictures to the world, to the wire news, it was 25 minutes after explosion. It was too fast. Actually, I did it. And well, I went home, but mentally I couldn't get away from that place. I thought that I left something there. I thought myself I'm yet, and I really didn't know what to do. I kind of thought that this is only a body that I'm carrying to home. My spirit, my soul is there with them. But that was really difficult, to be honest. When I went home and tried to comfort myself, I couldn't. I thought that probably till that afternoon, till that night, probably I die. That was the reaction that I had actually in my body, in my mental, and my heart was beating more than 200 times actually, and it was too much pressure on me, and I was asking myself that what else I could do, you know, and if I could do anything, then why I didn't do it? I had a injury in my, I mean, hand, and that's why that I couldn't stay much because it was too much pain. And during it was a dinner time actually. I I wasn't really at the home. I wasn't in conscious perfectly. And then I had a call from Hong Kong, and my boss in Hong Kong called me, and he said me really excited that Massoud, congratulations, your pictures is worldwide. I mean, printed and being published in the biggest newspapers in the world. Well, and that was the a time that it made me a bit calm and said, all right, I did my responsibility. I said and I showed to all world that what happened to my people and what happened in Afghanistan, what happened in Kabul, and what this violence did to us. So that was the moment that I took that picture and the feeling that I had.
That is a very powerful experience, and I would like to thank you for sharing such a personal experience as well. It's kind of left me a bit speechless, in all honesty, regarding, because you see the photo, but then, and you imagine the story in 100 different ways in your own mind, but then you never really know the reality. And I think no one can really feel the same way unless they hear it from the photographer themselves. So I really
Mm-hmm.
would like to thank you for sharing that experience with us, because I can imagine recalling it can't be easy either. And it there was an interesting point that you made when you were starting your photography. You stated that you wanted to see what Afghanistan was, and that's what motivated you to go around taking photographs and, with your camera to see what Afghanistan was. And from that, you also said that you wanted to know what war was. Were there any conclusions or any, crucial points that you've come to, or any, answers that you may have to that question? I mean, I'm sure they're very wide and broad questions, and we could be all here all day,
Yeah.
with the answers for them. But anything that you would like to
Well,
specifically say?
yeah, exactly. Well, it's, well, I saw and I understood many things about Afghanistan, and the main thing or the new thing that I learned, which I didn't have it before in my childhood, was that the war is so ugly, and I needed to show that face. You know, the war was like evil. It was really, really scary. It was really, really inhuman. And I had to show that monster to people, right? And I tried my best. I never thought that kind of photographing war and facing war will damage myself too, because I was completely dedicate myself to show it to society, to people, that this war, please stop it. Well, unfortunately, I was alone, probably. I did my best, but war never finished in Afghanistan. And yeah, well, the answer that I tell you is that um, for sure that in between I met many great people. I kind of visit really beautiful villages, like a paradise in the earth, but they were all invaded by war, by monsters, you know. And I couldn't enjoy, I mean, those places as what I wanted, you know. Um, Before that, I start, I mean, photography as my profession, photojournalism. I thought that I am in Afghanistan and I will do my best to show the beauty of this nature, this land, the nature of this land, and try to create hope, accelerate hope, and kind of try to be positive in this country. When I start covering war, well, I thought that I'll do it till 2007 or 2008, and then in this 2007 and 8, the war will be finished. Peace will come, and I'll do my best for showing peace, beauty, nature, life, hope. But unfortunately, I drowned on war. You know, I don't know if I should say that this is like a war photographer says or not, but I tell you that war photography is really big, you know, is really important. Many photographers want to do that. It is something that people will see that you're so brave, you're a big person, you're a strong person, and you do the most important job in the world. But in the other side, war destroy a photographer who's living in war zone. And that happened to me too. And well, I did my best for Afghanistan. I tried to bring awareness about war, what war is doing. War was destroying the bodies, but the main important was destroying the humanity, the culture, the religion, country, nature, everything. I wanted to show them. And then after like 20 years covering war, I understood that war also destroying the photographer as well. And well, this is me right now, and try to still try to do my best, and still I'm in war.
Oh, and we admire your courage, I can say the least. It's very brave to be able to run towards the place where everyone else is running away from. I've seen through your Twitter that this situation in Kabul at the moment
Mm.
isn't any better. Could you provide your comments on that and what it's like at the moment and what the present situation is, and how do you see, how do you see the future unfolding?
Well, uh, every morning we start our day by explosion, and well, I sleep. I am in my bed, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, I wake up. Right now, I'm not working for any agencies, so I'm a freelancer. So I don't go to any office or anything. So I woke up at 6 o'clock, and I try to check all social media to see where was the explosion and who's been killed. If you know, like the main target right now for the terrorists, I don't know whom should I call them, because there are a lot of them in Afghanistan. There are Taliban, there are Al-Qaeda, there are IS, there are Haqqani, and many others, right? And they start this campaign, the terror campaign, by killing journalists. Why? Because as much as they killed people, right, the civilian, then it get used to it. News get used to it. Nobody was shocked about it. As much as they killed police and army, then also it was a normal news. So they went to another phase to kill celebrities, famous journalists, and those that people love, you know, civil society people. And they are still doing it. A lot of, unfortunately, in these few months, a lot of educated people, civil society and human rights activists already left Afghanistan. And there are few people that here in Kabul right now that we cannot go out of our home. And whenever we want to go out of the house, we knew that it might be another bomb to kill us. So this is the situation, to be honest, that I can't get anywhere. And I cannot go to visit my friends. I cannot go to a restaurant. I cannot go to a coffee shop. And I'm staying home, and my life is completely like unreal. I'm living with the online means. Nobody can see me. I can't see anyone outside. So this is situation in Kabul. Every day started by a bomb, a magnetic bomb, then killing maybe several people in one place. And with the situation that our government has, unfortunately, the weakness that President Ghani has, and he cannot manage anything. He's not, I mean, credible president for us. And with the problem that, with the process that we have with the terrorist group, that we conduct a peace process and try to talk to them. So the country is completely under fire right now, especially Kabul. And I really scared that it might be even worse because spring is coming, and spring, uh, I mean, unlike the other places in the world that every other people try to celebrate spring and they're going to the nature, we have fire that Taliban bring it to us. We have hell in the spring started, and we have fire which they make it for us every spring till the end of summer. So I really, I mean, scared from this time because now they are much more um, kind of angry to kill more people, especially they try to cut those people uh, that their voice, sorry, they try to cut the voice of those people who are talking for Afghan people. And let's see what will happen.
Well, I applaud your bravery and I do wish you all the safety and health in the world.
Thank
Um,
you.
you know, I mean, of course, this is a hefty part about what Afghanistan has become, and it's heartbreaking because of all the innocent people that get caught in all this crossfire and get known as collateral damage. With different political motives being involved. But I mean, it's very difficult to put aside, and by no means trying to undermine it, but without that not without that being there, but other than that, what is the Afghanistan that you want people to know? On a more sort of wholesome note, in that sense that of course there's much more to Afghanistan than just war. But I mean, I wouldn't say just war, but more than war. Um, what is that in your eyes? What is that Afghanistan?
Well, actually, we have a lot of other great um, kind of cultures, nature, and many other colors of life that first people of Afghanistan should see, and then other parts of the world see. Unfortunately, war limit traveling of people around the country. Unfortunately, every corner of Afghanistan doesn't know about the other corner of Afghanistan. And that's, I really wanted to try this, you know? I really wanted to use photography to bring peace also, and to show them that how beautiful country they have, and why they do not try to stop the war. Well, I always wanted to show like Badakhshan province to Kandahar and Helmandi people in the south, and show like Khost to the north in the city, in Mazar city, or show Mazar city to Konar, and show beauty of Konar to Herat. But unfortunately, war stopped everything. We are stuck in a war which is not ours, and we are just a victim. I wanted that people of Afghanistan find the opportunity to see each other, to talk to each other, to uh, being host for each other, being guest for each other, and understand that they do not have any problem. And this war is not our war. And the only problem is that some part of Afghan society is being used. They are like toys in other, I mean, countries' hand to do their politics. I wanted to just them to know. I want them to be and to think and to see Afghanistan, love the Afghanistan and live in it. Do not destroy it. Do not create hate, and do not let terrorists use this land for anything. This is what I wanted that people know.
Well, I mean, I do hope that becomes a reality in the future, and that the autonomy is granted to the Afghan people themselves, and so they get to be, they get they get the opportunity to have the power over their narrative and the way that their country operates. Simple things that I think we, especially in the West, that take for granted, is traveling from one city to another is not a reality on the ground, and it's hard to imagine what that is, what that could be like. I think even the lockdown that's taking place in these circumstances at the moment has been a shock to us here, but it's a reality over there that's existed for many years. And the anticipation of all that, it's heartbreaking. Um, Now, I mean, this is the opportunity. This is the part of the. I mean, we've almost come to the end of our time, and this is the part where I basically allow our speaker to be able to conclude with the remarks that they wish regarding Afghanistan and Afghan identity, and with the topic that we've spoken about today so much. So please, I mean, the mic is yours.
Well, let me say just some of my wishes that I have for this
Mhm.
country. Well, I I I wish actually to see peace, to feel peace in Afghanistan when I'm alive, and I hope to see it in my lifetime. And people of Afghanistan are really, really tired of war, and they are completely out of this any influence in this situation. And I don't know how should we inform the other societies, international communities that try to help us to get rid of this monster. And this monster is not from Afghanistan. And we do not want to be a victim for others' proxy war in this place. We do not want to die because Russia and US have problem. We do not want to die because India and Pakistan have problem. We do not want to die if Iran and Saudi has problem. And we just want to live only our rights, our place. Do not um, intervene to any other affairs of any other countries in the region. We never attack anywhere. Afghanistan never went to war with any other countries in his history. And I don't know how to, I mean, ask this, how to tell them that please leave us alone. Probably we can make peace if you do not force us for doing anything else. Well, I wish that Afghan children, they go to their school without any fear. And when they go to a school, the parents do not be worried anymore that, okay, my children will come alive or not. I saw many of these disaster stories myself. I recorded them. Well, I hope that those soldiers who marry and after 1 month after their marriage go to the war, they could see their wife again. And I hope those women that their husbands go to the war, they see their husband again in the home. They celebrate Nowruz. They eat together and they go together to parties, to mehmanis, I mean, the local mehmanis. I hope that all wishes that the youth in Afghanistan has, and normal, I mean, wishes. It's not a really big or really difficult. Get real. They they get their wishes and they get what they want. And I hope that everybody who loves in Afghanistan stay in Afghanistan comfortably in peace. And well, that's a big problem. We all love our country, but sometimes some of us have to immigrate outside. They go outside, but still they kind of like born in that, situation. It's exactly like that. You get away from your love. Your love will stay somewhere else, and you will go 1,000 miles away from that country, that place, that hometown. Uh, as I told you, I went to more than 35 countries. They were so beautiful for sure. They were really peaceful. They were so great. I, the longest after Iran, the longest that I stayed was Holland. I stayed in a really small city called Dordrecht, and it was completely like a paradise. And I had a bike there, and I was going around that city by bike. that was really beautiful city. But when I am biking in Kabul, I feel something else, you know. I know that the streets, the mountains, the trees, everything is mine. And that's really good feeling, you know. I am the owner. And I hope that this land, this country, see the peace, reach peace, and hug peace, and stay alive like every other places.
Well, I hope that dream comes true and I hope that you get to witness it in your lifetime. Thank you so much, Masoud, for that incredible interview. It was a very
Thank you very
insightful and powerful conversation, definitely heart touching. And I would like to thank our audience for watching. Please join us again this coming Saturday at the same time, where we'll be in conversation with Professor Nazif Shahrani. And I would like to thank everybody again from Identity International.